Today, you have the opportunity to step into a world where image is power, and your brand's visual story holds the key to unlocking limitless potential. In today's digital landscape, where first impressions are often made online, the way your brand is visually represented plays a crucial role in shaping perceptions and driving engagement. How others perceive your brand, often determined by your personal style and the image that you project, can influence everything. There are so many options out there. People will go far for the brand image and the personal story and the style of the leader that they connect with the most. Today, you're going to discover a blueprint for strengthening your own self-image and your brand's visual story through practical strategies that you can use starting today. You'll learn how to silence your inner critic, appreciate your strengths, nurture self-compassion, and surround yourself with a strong support system of people who are attracted to your visual image and style. And you'll learn about how to cultivate your brand's image through purposeful styling. Your image and your style can determine your confidence, your motivation, and your resilience. A positive self-image cultivated through intentional branding and visual styling can help you love and accept yourself, which of course leads to greater happiness and success in life. And that's why we are so lucky to have here today Jane Vandermeer, Toni Sparks, and Amy Orchard to share so much wisdom with everyone here today. Just to give you a little bit more information about these featured experts, Jane Vandermeer is a multi-award-winning, highly intuitive, gentle, and innovative international thought leader. She is a best-selling author, a speaker, a stylist, a trainer, and she loves sharing her knowledge. Jane has had a 30-year career within the fashion industry in so many different roles, including designer, tailor, pattern maker, quality control, buyer, wholesale and retail sales, lecturer, business owner, and creator. That is a lot of hats, Jane. Now, she helps female founders, speakers, coaches, and consultants feel like they can take on the world, share their message and their light. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so thrilled.
Yay! We're also featuring today Toni Sparks. Toni is a luxury portrait photographer and the owner of Short Story Studios, where she helps to craft personal branding for leaders. Her creative team will help you capture your story and craft unforgettable visuals that will stand out from the competition. Through photographs that are as unique as you are, Toni creates images that you will cherish forever. If these photos are for your business, Toni creates scroll-stopping content for all of your social media needs as well. Please welcome Toni Sparks.
Super happy to be here. Thank you.
Yay! All right. We've also got Amy Orchard. Amy is an award-winning boutique portrait photographer and the owner of Lantana Studios. Amy is not only an elite photographer, but she also helps her clients express their unique personalities through their clothing and personal style. Amy prides herself on being able to see beauty in the most unexpected places and capture that beauty in a photograph. Please welcome Amy Orchard.
Hi, everyone.
We are so happy to have all three of these experts. You are going to gain so much information from these three superstars here today. So let's go ahead and kick it off. Jane, I'd like to start with you. Every one of you has a unique story about how you got into the role that you're in. So tell me, Jane, a little bit about your story, your journey, and how you got to be having such a passion around personal style and cultivating an authentic and captivating image for women.
Thank you so much. What an introduction, and I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for everyone joining as well. I started my first business at 16 years old, actually, and I've never stopped. And I started sewing at about 8 years old, and again, have never stopped. I've styled women, from that time onwards, and all I understood it was traditional styling and design is the external. And yes, the external is so important, but I could see this missing link between this self-talk, this self-worth, self-confidence, women who are extraordinary at what they do, extraordinary, highly educated, got the experience, and are doing extraordinary things, and yet still the focus is on their hips, their tummy, their bottom, their this, their that. And so I saw this real link or gap. And this was when I was in my early 20s. And so back then I thought, heart-based, I need to create a solution here. And of course, the other part to that is I always thought I wanted to do the celebrity thing and get in. And I have done all that and been on the front page of all the media and whatever. But deep down, that's not my love. I've done it and it's fine, but making sustainable change and really coming from that place of education where women can walk away and know how to do it themselves, that is what is my driving force. It's hard to get 30 years into a little paragraph, but anyway, that's the theme that's run through 30 years of my fashion career.
I love that, Jane. It's always so neat to hear about where passion comes from and where everyone's individual why comes from. So, Toni, I'm going to come to you next. Same question. Tell us a little bit about your journey. Tell us about why you've got such a passion around style, around authenticity, and around photographing amazing women and helping them feel as beautiful on the outside as we all know they are on the inside as well as the outside too.
Sure. So I've been a photographer for a couple of decades, over a couple of decades now, and went to art school. I wanted to be a fashion photographer. That was my love. That was my passion. That's what I wanted to do. I got into the industry and it was ugly. There was nothing about it that I enjoyed. I did not like the way the models were treated. I did not like that they all looked exactly the same and they looked about 12. So I went from that journey. I've always been a photographer, but I ended up going into the fine art world for a little while and then the corporate world for a while. And now that I found myself running my own business, it brings me so much joy to have the average woman feel like a supermodel, like she could be on the cover of a magazine, that I can help her find her brand voice where she's comfortable and she doesn't feel like she's trying to fit into someone else's narrative about what she should be. If you never wear blazers, I would never photograph you in a blazer. If you never, it's so important for my clients to be comfortable in what they're in and what the way that their brand is represented. So I'm very passionate about that and making sure that everyone inclusive, no matter what body size, no matter your age, everything that we are inclusive of everyone and everyone is made to feel beautiful. Everyone deserves that.
Such a fabulous answer. I've known Toni for many years now, and I always learn something new about you. Thank you for sharing more about your passion. How about you, Amy? We're going to ask you the exact same question. So tell us about your passion. Tell us about where your desire and your willingness to really wrap yourself around personal style, around photography, and around helping women feel glamorous. Where does that all come from for you?
About 8 years, I was coming up to becoming almost empty nester, not quite, almost turning 50, and some personal situations happen around friends and stuff, and I realized that I needed to have something else in my life. And photography was a good creative outlet. Fortunately, also about that same time as I started playing with photography, I was able to find a beautiful, wonderful mentor that showed me how to really dive into the business. And then while I was learning my craft, I also learned a lot about my own self-value. And I realized so many women are on their own journey of their own self-value. And so being able to facilitate and be part of that journey by showing them their images, their beauty, their strength. Is just it makes my heart sing when I can do that for my women. So yeah, it's become more and more of a passion than just a way of making money if something happened.
Thank you so much, Amy. Oh my gosh, I can feel such passion from each of you for doing what it is that you do. Several of you mentioned, all of you mentioned the fact that you change women's lives. It's not about the money, it's not about the business part, but let's turn it back around to business. Let's talk about personal branding because that absolutely has to do with business. I'm going to start with you, Amy, on this particular question. So, talk to us about visual branding. Talk to us about the groundwork that's needed from the business perspective when it comes to imaging, attracting the right customers, engendering loyalty amongst partners, customers, and supporters. How do you begin when it comes to taking personal branding more into the business branding world?
Well, I think you really have to know your brand. You have to know your target market. That's ultimately you need to know who your target market is. So with knowing that, then you can craft your brand to attract those people. Now, your brand is also an extension of yourself. So knowing yourself and who you are as well also helps define your brand. So you've got to, even as a photographer, we need to ask questions. If they don't, because if they don't have an idea of who their target market is, their brand's just kind of floating around there. And then we're not able to get the right imaging that they need to attract.
Thank you for that, Amy. All right, I'm going to ask Jane and Toni the same question as well. Toni, I'll come to you because I know this is so much about what you do in your business. So talk to us about that bridge between personal styling and business branding. How do you start down that path?
So the first thing I do is I actually have a consultation and we create a vision board. And one of the biggest things that I dive into is how does your brand feel now? And how would you like it to feel? I can kind of get into the all squishy, mushy questions about the way that they're being represented. And a lot of times I don't like to be in front of the camera. I don't want my face to be my brand. But then I explain to them, your face is your brand. Your people are buying from you. They're doing business with you because of who you are. So let's represent that. It's really a deep dive into who they are as a person, who they want their business to be, and how they want it to be represented. And from there,
So amazing.
the photo shoot gets planned.
Absolutely. So you've got to vision it. You've got to come up with that image before you can actually do the work that you need to do to create that image.
Exactly.
How about you, Jane? How do you begin to bridge that gap between personal styling and then business branding? How do you begin to really help women understand how, as a business, they can really attract the right customers? They can have the best partners. They can display correctly to their customers. How do you start that conversation, or how do you start that path towards business branding?
Yeah. So probably like the other ladies, I'm very boutique as opposed to really like a broad scattergun kind of business. So I have deep relationships with women. So a couple of things. Also, I spend time, I ask a lot of questions. One of my superpowers is listening and truly asking the right questions, because often women can't articulate what it is that's perhaps missing or what they're looking for. It's often easier to say what they don't want than what they do want. So that takes time and nurturing and lots of questions. So even before I have a 90-minute offering, even before that, there's, like a 3-page questionnaire to help women to deep dive into that thinking, to start the process, because it's, I live it and breathe it, but they may not. And so it's hard to be objective about yourself. It's hard to be objective about your own business. The other point I would make too is exactly what Toni said. We are our brands. Whether we like it or not. And actually, I can completely relate to not wanting to be the face. I've had a very high-flying career for 30 years under the radar, and that's just how I like it. But we need to be the face because women need to know who we are, whether they like us, whether they like our vibe, our aesthetic, all those things, right? And whether we're trustworthy and whether we can connect. But I would also add that branding needs to go across every platform. So our website, all socials, how we show up at events, how we show up all the time. We are a walking advertisement, whether we like it or not. Now, that doesn't mean we need to be done to the nines necessarily if that's not who you are. That is a bit my vibe because that's who I am, but that's not for everybody. But I have been, like, even in the last few years, I've been to fashion events and things, and people have come up to me and said, "I know who you are." I'm like, "Oh, right," because that personally is a little bit sort of uncomfortable. Oh yeah, I saw you at the cafe the other day, and this is not a cafe anywhere near me, all that kind of thing. And I thought, yeah, isn't it interesting? As soon as you are a little bit more visual, which is what's needed, we are a walking advertisement. And then I'm suddenly going, what was I doing that day? What was I wearing? What was I this? What was I that? But essentially, I'm usually always basically on brand. And it really reinforced that to me. So I think that is something to be mindful of. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jane. You got right into what I was about to ask next. So I'm going to stay with you for a little bit more because I want to dive a little bit deeper in this. What I clearly understood from both Toni, Amy, and Jane is that not only when it comes to cultivating an image and defining a brand, you have to start with a clear direction. You have to start with some clear strategy already in mind when photographers, stylists, and image consultants work with us as customers. So how can we, as the brands, how can we better work with you to help really define and understand our style and our image?
Personally, I would do it with you. I don't expect women to have all the answers to all of that before you come to me. That's just how I work, because like I said, it's hard to be objective about yourself. I was thinking about this before jumping on this call, even with things like eye makeup, how we do our eyes, our eye makeup, right? I see women doing same, and I've watched them over years. Doing the hair, same. Buying every winter, you call them sweaters, we call them knitwear or jumpers. But essentially buying the same sort of thing every year. And it's almost like living on default, sort of like just not truly conscious, just, life's busy, doing the thing, repeat, rinse and repeat. There's nothing wrong with that. But if your aspiration is to take your business to the next level, to the next income level, or perhaps you are wanting to be more visual, you are ready to step on stage, you want to be interviewed, you want to be on TV, you want whatever that is you want to do. If you can't, to me, if you keep presenting in the way you are right now, you are probably not going to reach this next level, because it's holistic. You've got to truly embody that, your language, your posture, your delivery, and your aesthetic. So it's hard to do that yourself. That's one of my superpowers. That's where I would come in. And that's not a 1 hour conversation. That is time and digging deep and throwing a few ideas at you, letting them marinate, sometimes going into shock, because sometimes I'm going to tip your world upside down. And I would say, certainly with the ladies I work with, it's not that they're not doing a great job, but they want better. They know themselves enough that they want professional help and guidance to level up.
Well, first, let me acknowledge, thank you so much, Jane, for normalizing how difficult this is for women. I know as you were talking through that story of being seen in a cafe and not remembering what you were wearing that day, I have a fear that I'm running around somewhere and somebody's going to catch a photograph of me, and then all of a sudden it's just going to destroy everything. If you're here today, please drop something in the chat if you feel the same way. If Jane has helped you see a different perspective, let us know in the chat. We are hoping that this conversation will enlighten and will help women feel more comfortable about their physical look. So thank you so much, Jane, for normalizing that. And I love that you talked so much about how difficult it is, how hard it is to understand styling and branding. So Toni, I'm going to come to you next. How do you help your clients? I know you go through the vision board with them to help them through that process, but do you see the same things that Jane's acknowledging as well? Difficulties from women understanding how to really define their image and their style. How do you help women begin to unpack that?
So I kind of start, just because of what I do for a living, I start on the opposite end. I start talking about the brand, the business, the aesthetics of the business and the brand, right? And that gets them out of their own head. They start talking about how excited they are about said business. Okay, well, how do you want this to be represented? And how do you feel it's being represented now? And we talk through the dynamics of that, because a lot of times you could be the most successful person in your business on the planet, but if you're not representing that, you're not going to go get your hair done from someone with a bad hairdo, right? Like, you've got to take all the steps. And like you said, Jane, across all of your social media platforms, on your website, you have to be a walking billboard. And it doesn't mean you need to be dressed up all the time. I am certainly not that person. But people know that when they hire me to do an event or do something for them, I'm going to show up and represent their business the best way that I know how. And I feel like talking with business owners about how important that is, even if we live at the beach, you still have to do it here. It's just part of it. And having those conversations, someone doesn't just walk into my studio and get branding photos taken. That's not how it works. There's a lot of discussions ahead of time. There's a lot of planning and kind of digging deep and little tears on occasion. Sometimes because, they're uncomfortable with self-care. They're uncomfortable that they think too much attention is going to be drawn on them, getting their hair done, getting their makeup done, looking a certain way. They think someone might look at them negatively. I'm like, well, those aren't your people. Rise up, let's go. We're going to move past that. This is what you want to do. Let's go, let's do it. And it's really a lot of talking and conversation and showing people what they can be. And sometimes when they look at their images, you get tears. I know Amy knows.
Absolutely. And I'm looking at the beautiful imaging right behind you, Toni. This is all of Toni's background is all of her work as well. I can imagine what those women what went through their minds when they saw those beautiful photographs right behind you. Such a good point. Toni, thank you so much for normalizing confidence and how it's okay for women to look confident. It's not a bad thing to look confident. It's okay if it's done the right way. So, Amy, I'm coming to you next. How do you help women begin to define their style and their image?
And I do have the consultation like Toni does it and Jane does. It's, again, that conversations that we have and understanding more about who they are and how they want to be represented. I also offer, a small studio wardrobe, and then they bring in stuff. So a lot of times we will just start playing. So for me, it's the confidence that comes out from them, as well as being able to reflect their business brand. So like right now, I've got more of a soft jacket because I'm not a jacket person. Well, I guess I am because I'm kind of starting to wear a little more jackets, but they're fun. So understanding your client and how they like to wear things, and then figure out how to elevate that just a little bit so it reflects their brand, and it reflects the image they want the clients that they're drawing into what they want to see. Because if they're looking at you too, and they'll say, oh, I like her pictures. Especially, as photographers, we also need to do our own branding. We need to understand what we look like and do our own self-portraits, or be lucky enough to have a photographer to do something. So if we don't have that, then they're going to look at us going, well, what can you do for us? So, and then also offering the services of a stylist a little bit more, so they can really start playing and growing, because it's not just the business and their brand, but it's also them personally. The more we figure out what things we like to wear and be comfortable in it and be confident in it, it's all going to come out in the images and coming out in how we represent ourselves.
Thank you for that, Amy. I got that by leading by example and also bringing in people that can help are great ways to help women feel more comfortable and also get better quality photography.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing some stuff in the chat. I want to ask about how often women should refresh their photography. So I know we've probably all seen bad examples of this. So how often, and it'll be funny because when we get to Toni, she'll remember during COVID, I grew out my hair from bright red to almost platinum white, and she's got photographs of almost the entire process. Because I was continuing to do my own imaging during that time as well. So Amy, tell us when should women know it's time to refresh their image?
Well, like you said, if you are changing your look up, you need to change. They say every couple of years. I think some women need to do it even more often. And then you need also a variety of images, because there's so many social media platforms, your website, your blog. You want a variety of images. So it's not just that headshot, it's branding images, casual, professional, a little glamorous. So, and I know that's so hard to take, that, oh, I've got to do it every few years or every couple of years or every year. Ultimately, we don't like to see ourselves aging. And so we don't like to get our picture taken. So finding a professional that makes you feel comfortable, that makes you feel beautiful, and that still shows your age and who you are right now is so important, because people want to deal with you and they don't want to deal with you 10 years ago, because you've grown and changed, and they want to see the authentic self of who you are.
Great practical advice. All right, Toni, you're in this world as well. And I just explained, you saw my transition with my hair color. So how, besides it being that starkly obvious, how should women know how often to refresh that image?
I think that sometimes it's not that obvious. Sometimes you don't have a huge life change or a huge, but if you're in a business where your image is critical and you are the face of your business and you have a huge online presence, I have clients that come to me quarterly, and all we do is just refresh that content. So if you're someone who maybe doesn't have a huge online presence, but you want one, maybe start switching out your photos for something a little bit more professional and mixing them in with your own selfies and your own videos, so that they see who you truly are on video, and you're talking and you're changing up that professional image. They know you're serious about what you do. They know that you are the expert in your industry, because you take your brand seriously. And I think a couple of years sometimes is too long for people, especially if they're online all the time. You need to do it a little more often, at least annually. I would say minimum.
Thank you for that. Toni, does it get easier the more often you do it?
Yes. So I have been back in this Pensacola area for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now. And I've had a lot of repeat clients. They all start out the same way. I hate having my photo taken. I am not photogenic. Do the best you can. I don't know what you're going to do with me, basically, is the conversation, how it always starts. And by the time they leave my session, they're excited, we're dancing, we're listening to music, they're excited to schedule their next session. It becomes a lot more fun and it's empowering for them. It shows them I can do this. It's okay to be confident. It's okay to enjoy how I look and appreciate my age and my little wisdom lines and you know what I mean? Like these are great. I appreciate this. I'm grateful to be here. Look at how amazing I am. There's your image sends across so much more than you think that it does. And it takes 7 seconds for someone to make an opinion of you from your image. That's how fast that is.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely right. And I know what Toni's talking about. She has a fun studio. She has all sorts of props, all sorts of fun stuff. So it is almost like a party coming to her studio. Thank you for making it so fun for women and so taking away such barriers that exist in that world. So Jane, how about from your perspective as a personal stylist, how often should you really start refreshing that image and really evolving that visual brand?
I think business and small business particularly, it's a constant opportunity for personal growth. So for many women, and certainly the women here and women that are in my realm, we're learning about ourselves, we're growing, we're evolving. Who we are today, we weren't those women even 6 months ago, 12 months ago, and pre you know what. So how can we? So I think that needs to be reflected as we're evolving, because we're not that same person. So I would encourage like a bigger photo shoot, probably once a year, really. And like Toni said, if you are heavily in the media and social media and all those things where we are the face of our business, I would do that, and then do a little spot update ones, but with a photographer. What came to mind listening to the girls is with one of my last photo shoots. So look, I've been photographed a lot in my whole life, but I still get really nervous. Like as soon as I don't. There are probably some women out there that go, this is my happy space. But I think for the majority of us, it takes a bit to relax into it and not like, you know. But what I would also say is when I work with women for a photo shoot is we plan it out to the nth degree, because having beautiful professional imagery, it is an investment, and that investment can really work for you so well. It is such a brilliant return on investment if it's done well. So how I would approach it from my perspective to plug in when I work with a photographer, whether that's online or halfway around the world or local, is I would work out your complete different outfits, including shoes, jewelry, the whole lot, and have it all pre-done, and I would link that back to your branding colors. We would spend time working out, all right, what not only, and the girls would probably do this too, not only you want landscape and portrait, so you need some of those, but also what are the elements of your business that you do that we need images for? Do you need one you teaching, showing what you're doing, an action shot, a this or that? So I'd have that all planned. I wouldn't wing it, even for someone that knows what they're doing, because a few nerves kick in and suddenly you can't put things together because you're busy trying to remember to hold yourself and not do this. And, if I do this, I've just lost 5 kilos. And if I do this, I look 10 kilos heavier, that kind of thing. It's hard to remember all of that and the outfits and the whole lot on the day. So preparation is the key. That not only the end goal, but from an aesthetic, from the outfit side, that I couldn't encourage that part enough. And that's where getting expert help, like with all areas of life, that's where getting expert help is worth their weight in gold. And those images are brilliant. Every single one of them really works very hard for your business.
Thank you so much for that, Jane. All right, Toni, I'm going to come to you next with this one because this is talking more about the brand, the business branding part of it. So obviously cultivating your image, developing your personal brand, it all means that you have to build your self-confidence. You have to create that positive image. You have to project that right image to others. Obviously, if you're not feeling that on the inside, it doesn't come out in the photography on the outside. So how do you help women in that moment manage their persona and be successful on the outside as well and on the inside in both business and social settings? Can you give us some guidance on that?
That's a big question. Okay. So as once all the preparation is done, because there is a lot of preparation and planning and organizing and makeup artists and things like that. Once all of that's done and you're in my studio, you're just going to have fun. Basically, I take over from there. I do what's called flow posing. So basically, I am going to pose you and make you look gorgeous. You don't have to stress about posing. You don't have to stress about lighting. You don't have to stress about your hair, about what to do with your hands. I'm going to walk you through every single step of that. That is usually what I find most people are the most nervous about. They get in front of the camera, like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, you don't have to. That's my job. So, I'm going to walk them through that so that they are not nervous and they're having fun. And if I can see that they haven't relaxed yet, I can always see it in people's necks. I show them the back of my camera and I show them how amazing they look. And usually their mouth drops wide open. And then they're like, oh, okay. Then they relax a little bit and then we shoot a little bit more and I show them a couple more and that's unedited straight out of the camera. They're just gorgeous. So the more I can do, I make sure I vocalize how amazing they look. I show them how amazing they look. And then what they were dreading in the beginning becomes really fun and they want to do it again. So
I love that. That's so amazing. Amy, I'm going to come to you next as a photographer as well. How do you make women feel comfortable in that moment for you?
Very similar to what Toni does. We have a similar approach and have worked with the similar mentors, the same mentor actually. And so I think one of my superpowers is getting people to be relaxed. And in fact, the other day I was at a party and I took a picture of one of our members and she's like, with her phone. And she's like, oh, that was easy. You made me relax and it was no problem. And I was like, well, that's my superpower. So yeah, it's being comfortable and confident in what I do as a professional so that they're able to relax and trust in us. Just like trusting in, our makeup artists, our stylists like Jane. Certain things you have, and I know so many women can't always give off that part of the responsibility or, that control. But that's why we have different professionals with different jobs. So yeah, find the one that works for you, find the one that has the personality that you mesh with, and then you can really create magic in the studio and get the images you need for yourself and your business.
Thank you so much, Amy. I love that both Amy and Toni talked about leave it in the hands of the professionals. I mean, that's what you have both invested so much of your careers into, is helping women feel comfortable. I love that. Thank you for that. All right, last question. I'm going to ask this to all three of our panelists, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A because we'd like to hear if any of the attendees have some questions they would like answered live as well. So feel free to drop a question in the chat if you'd like. After this next question, you're welcome to raise your Zoom hand or your physical hand. We can let you ask the question live and get that answer live as well. So Amy, I'm going to stick with you for this next one, but give me an example of a story. So when it comes to your clients working with you, obviously they're coming to you because they want to feel and look their best self. They want to develop a style that ensures that they're projecting the right message to others. So tell us about a time where you helped a client create that perfect first impression and gain confidence that they needed to help them in whatever business situation they were dealing with. I'm sure you have a million stories.
Well, I do. A lot of my sessions tend to be, we start out with headshots of branding and that business type look, and then we start relaxing and playing and giving a little bit more so they can have fun with it as well. So I know several times they've brought in a few pieces, and then I've got some pieces in my wardrobe, and we just, from my fashion background as well, I'm able to take that and just kind of switch them around a little bit. I've had people, they're like, oh, I never thought about wearing that with that. And it actually pops better on the, in the image. It's something that they may not change, but they still were very comfortable in it, but it gave it a little bit more elevated look depending on, what they were bringing in. And I also, it's not always just a professional look. Sometimes you want a more casual look. Or if you're doing on boards for charities and you have a gala or an event, then you're going to want, something more dressy. So being able to option and create that for those ladies is really helpful.
That is so wonderful. Such simple changes can make such a big difference. All right, Toni, coming to you next. I know you have a ton of stories as well. So tell us a story where you helped a client create that first perfect impression or gain the confidence they needed in their business to stand out ahead of their competition.
So I would say I have a lot of stories, but one that comes to mind is an inspiring coach, an aspiring public speaker. Wanted to get into the business, and she did not have professional photos. Once we got her those specific photos, we went through the whole consultation, the branding process, to figure out what she needed. We've gone through 3 sessions now, and she is working her way up to where she wants to be, meeting the right people in the right places because she looks the part, she looks professional, she looks like the person that she wants to be. I think that, like Amy said, what you can do though, you have all the plans in the world and you go through your whole plan, you got to leave time for play, because sometimes those images that they were not planning for, that they did not expect, turned out to be the best ones, because you're like, okay, we're just going to play with these outfits, and you switch it up. And I have a drawer full of binder clips. My biggest thing is fit. I'm not a fashion expert by any means, but if your clothes don't fit you, they don't photograph well. So, I am clipping people's backs, their blazers down their backs and things like that to make sure that they fit properly, the fabric flows properly, and it looks beautiful in your images. So that's a lot of what I do. It's just, you might look good walking down the street, but maybe in the photo, it's not that great. So I make sure that it photographs really well too. So I kind of go those extra miles, and I've got a whole client closet and extra goodies that we can throw in and take off and switch out, and all the emergency sewing kits and tape and things that I need. So
You're a fashion fitness, like keeping it all together for women and photographing them at the same time. I love that. So Jane, I'm going to ask you same question. I know you have a million stories as well. Tell us one where you helped a client create that first impression, stand out in front of their competition, or maintain the confidence that they needed to be the amazing woman they are in their business.
Yeah. Like the other girls, I have a million stories, but one lady who comes to mind, actually I met her a long time ago, and so if you sort of picture this, someone who is highly educated, traveled the world, brilliant at what she does, but stuck, very self-conscious. So in terms of, and it's not about the body, but I just want to paint a bit of a picture. She was about a size 16 bust, a 12 waist, and about a 22 hip. So her weight was through her hips and bottom, but this little waist. And when she came to me, everything she wore was beige. Now, I'm not anti-beige, but to paint the picture, everything was big, big, big to cover the hips and bottom, and beige. So what that said is, don't look at me. Certainly don't put me under the spotlight. And of course, she had a couple of goals to gain her PhD and speak in her area. Thought, right. And so my approach, as with all things, is very holistic. We start with underwear, we build up that whole foundation, and even with fabric choices, so moving away from things that are shiny, let's go for texture, let's go for crepe, let's go for more matte things. Anyway, eventually because I find with someone like that didn't just happen overnight, how she feels about her body. That has taken years of mean girls saying mean things, or some boy we liked making some comment that fed that self-worth little voice in our head. So it takes time to unwind that and give women new tools, practical tools. And so I got her into playing on her curves in an elegant, highly not highly polished, because that's not who she was, but a bit more of a European influence with color and texture and layering. And I watched this beautiful soul flourish, come to life. And what happened as a result is she gained her PhD, she fell in love, she had the baby she'd always wanted, which she never thought was possible. You could see this confidence, even the way she walked in the room. And what happened, because I'm all about giving women tools, not me being sort of that band-aid, is I dressed her. This is when I had my couture business as well, so we made all the garments. I dressed her every season, so multiple times a year for 10 years. And of course, friendship happens somewhere along that way because we spend so much time together, and I, am a big part of their lives. And this is what I mean, where it goes quite deep. And that metamorphosis is really, really, to me, what it's all about. Watching her step into that woman that she probably never really thought she could be, that little dream you have, but you've got no idea how to make it happen. And yet, clearly, she's educated, intelligent, experienced. She's got all those things. She needed someone to show her the way, give her the tools, and 100% believe in her and be her cheerleader. And, that is such a, it's such an honor, actually, to be part of someone's life in that way.